within, I don't know, 2 minutes of me opening Twitter, the two things that we referred to, which one of was Limp Bizkit, and then Limp Bizkit showed up. And the other thing was, I gave the analogy about, we've all seen the meme, the photo of two people digging underground, and like there's the pile of gold or diamonds on the other side, and one person's like this close and they quit right before they're about to strike pay dirt. And then the other person's just burning through like a raging maniac. And so it's hilarious because as soon as we got off the podcast where we covered those things, Elon was like, "Oh, were you talking about this? Here you go. Is this what you were referring to on your podcast?"
Yeah, it is interesting. Does X do similar things that the other platforms do? I'd like to believe that they don't, but also I don't know. Maybe they don't even know. Maybe they're still trying to figure things out. I don't know what was all hidden in the code. I feel like they're all the time they're fixing bugs, or the whole ID thing that was going on there, where everyone was complaining like, why do I have to submit my ID to this foreign entity that says it's a U.S. company, but it's actually owned by a foreign entity, just to run ads, or I guess I should say recoup ad spend. Like YouTube has AdSense, so the creators get paid. And to get paid, you had to upload your ID. So that's kind of interesting too. Like, how much do they not, or does he not even know about what maybe the software itself is capable of?
Well, I mean, even regardless of that last part with the software, I think it's how much does he even know, because, and we can highlight Bud Light for this, right? Bud Light got canceled because they had Mulvaney, right, for the Mulvaney can and all that, and which was the worst marketing campaign ever, because you just push your hardcore fans, your raving fans away, right? Like, and that was a colossal mistake. Cool, they're back now, or they're starting to make a comeback or whatever, but it's the separation from top level brass executive to who's running the marketing campaigns, right? And whoever's running the marketing campaigns, they're going to go with what they think is the right decision. And so there's even that separation within corporate entities, and it's no different at X. And I think, when he came on and he laid off, fired 80% of the staff, 85% of the staff, basically, I think he got out a lot of the, quote unquote leftists who were there, just because it was like every other social media platform. It was clearly biased. But even within that, right, like at the end of the day, whoever's the person who's building the thing, putting up the community notes, right, like it's essentially another human who's making that decision. And so it may not be something tied way up top. Now, as far as like you have to submit your ID for monetization, yeah, I'm fairly certain he knew about it. The big stink was it goes back to a company in Israel who's linked to intelligence, and why would you want a foreign intelligence agency having your identification, having access to the things that you put out, and essentially having a finger on the pulse? And I think that's something that none of us would logically want if we stop and think about it, especially considering the state of the world and global conflict and politics. It's kind of a time where people are being a little bit more protective of their identity and trying to keep things more in house. And so I get that, but at the end of the day, yeah, for a lot of things, there's separation. On this one, I had a feeling he knew about it, and I just don't think he thought the backlash would be there the way that it was, and it's pretty substantial. I don't know the end result of what they're going to do, but even if you want to give them the $20 a month for the the blue check mark and the premium plus and all that, even to do that, you have to submit an ID, right? And so like, even when you're not eligible for monetization, which by the way, you have to have 5 million impressions, I think in a month or a quarter, something like that, to be eligible for monetization. And that's crazy. So some of the things that we spoke about prior with growing on X, I'm still going to say do the same thing. Go there, post your stuff, go live, produce video because that's what they want. But if you're looking to go there and monetize that early, it's not going to happen. You're going to have to be there for a little bit, just like we referred to the meme earlier, right? The person with the pickaxe underneath who's trying to get to the diamonds. You're going to have to keep going if you want to get to the diamonds.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I think more and more will come out, and probably people are like, why do you guys always talk about X? We're done. We're done talking about X for this program, I promise. We're over it. Settle down, kids. We're done. No more X for this discussion.
We lived on Instagram and Facebook forever. Do you know how tired of those two platforms I've gotten over the years? I just want to talk about something new. That's all.
Yeah. I just really want to go grow a garden, really, and just feed some corn to some deer. But we'll talk about the ultimate goal. Yeah, we'll talk about social media eventually. Welcome to another unedited edition of Run the Block, brought to you by the Live Rich Project, where today we're going to be talking actually all about what it means to build a rich life and how you can actually do it too. No, this is not propaganda, although we are always recommending, allegedly, that you should brainwash yourself before somebody else does it for you, which is a part 100%. Self-determining theory. Oh my gosh. could not get it out. So what we wanted to do today, this one's going to be, we're going to recommend kind of watching the video. Mike always does a great job of explaining what he's doing. He's going to actually break down what it means to live a rich life and what the Live Rich project is all about, and why we decided to, we kind of did this before, and then we let other things get away. And when we reintroduced this podcast, even we started to go into a little bit about our why and why now is a good time. But you and I kind of talked more and more over the last few weeks, and we really started to refine what it is that we really want to accomplish, what we want to do, why we're going to build a community, and even start with that route. When, a lot of people would probably be like, well, just, put up a business model or go do some business consulting. Like, yeah, that's cool, but that's not what this is about. That's not the actual grassroots. That's not the foundation that we want to build here. We want to do this something a little bit different. And yes, we could just do this fun podcast and we could just go off and do our own things. And that's true as well. But we want to actually try and tie all these things together, and not only with your passions and side hustles and hobbies, but mine as well. And then tie that in locally as well as globally to what our network's doing, and to also what we think maybe the future is going to be with incorporating technology with some of the grassroots approach that, you and I are very passionate about. So I'm just going to turn this one over to you. I'm going to have lots of questions as we go along, and I'm going to play part of the viewer here and ask you some questions, but I'm just going to let you take it away, man.
Yeah, man. Let's get into it. All right. If you have not heard the reboot episode, let's hop in on why we're doing this in the first place, what the rationale is of why we're doing this here and now. So, number one, a little bit of the background. I came from nothing. I grew up poor in the South. I moved to the Midwest, and I was poor for most of my life. And the reality is, I was raised by parents who were just trying to do their best with what they could, like all of us. And, they probably have some broken pasts. I know factually that both of my parents do. And if that sounds like you, cut your people a little bit of grace, right? Because at the end of the day, they're just like us. They're just trying to get by and do the very best that we can. But I came up with a limited scope of what is possible. I didn't have knowledge on how to make anything of myself because no one in my lineage has ever been able to do that before. Now, over the last, call it 8 years, 9 years, there's been a massive shift. And a lot of that started early on in my childhood. I can recall being at the YMCA in my town that I moved to. And I was wearing my freshest, flyest matching Phoenix Suns gear from Value City. And I thought it was cool because it was basketball stuff, and that's what I was into. And then I went into a public place with it, and The other kids let me know that it wasn't. And then one kid, when I was walking in front of him, was watching the game and said, hey, fat ass, move it. Now, I was a little chubby kid. I wasn't, obese or anything, but that stuck with me. And so I was at the YMCA every single day for hours playing basketball because I didn't want anyone to call me that again. And so that led me down really the discovery of fitness as something to anchor purpose to, and something that, through all the ups and downs in my life, the iron, it's always been there, right? Like whenever you're frustrated, whenever life is just beating you, you can go to the gym and you can beat it back. And at the end of the day, it's that effort that builds the muscle, it builds the character, it builds the resilience, right? And so it led me through a lifelong journey. And eventually I started doing personal training on the side. And it's something that I absolutely love to do. And I continued that. But I mean, we're talking about, the early 2000s. And I wasn't aware that you could make a living doing that because, again, smaller towns, it's not high priority. It's not high visibility. You don't have as many people. And so I just didn't know how to make it work. And so it was always the side hustle. It was always the side project for me. I always had clients on the side. It didn't matter what my main thing was. And I mean, I've worked in kitchens, distribution centers. I was a chemical technician in a glass plant. Like, I've lived the blue collar life because it's what I came from. It's what I knew. And it was the path that I thought was for me. And eventually, through the advance of the internet and other people learning marketing and things like that, learning sales, I was actually able to grow my side hustle and maintain a healthy roster of personal training clients. And ultimately, when I went into nutrition coaching about 8 years ago, had another 50 clients there. And so I was doing personal training. I had all these clients. And I also had a rotating swing shift, right? I worked 7 midnights and then I was off for a day, and I worked 7 afternoons and I was off for a day, and I worked 7 days and I was off for 3 days. But all of my days off were full of, my passion project, which was the thing that I loved. And I got really good at it, right? Like I always polished that skill because I was obsessed. And that's something that, people out there talk about, and they position it against each other. Like, it's not passion, it's obsession. Well, if you're not passionate about it, you're never going to obsess over it. So you got to find something that you're actually passionate about before you can obsess. And it became an obsession. It's where I spent all my time. I'll go back to, I was a chemical tech, and so steel toe work boots and hard hats. And I had my phone with courses and YouTube videos and podcasts, and I was constantly listening and constantly learning while I was at the main thing, which led me to a little bit of a breakthrough. I helped a gentleman rebuild his shoulders after doctors told him he was destroyed after a motorcycle accident and he would never be able to do a pull-up again. And so I met him at a CrossFit competition. He owned a gym. He told me what happened. I was like, man, I don't think so. I think we can do something about that. So we started working together. 10 months later, he posted the story on Instagram, like his story of the accident and everything the doctors told him, and he wouldn't be able to do this. But the video that he posted with it was him doing a set of unbroken ring muscle ups. They're like, you're never going to be able to do a pull up. He said, watch me. And so we worked together and we rebuilt him. And I caught a break because when he put that up, he tagged CrossFit and he tagged me. And CrossFit caught it and they put it up on their main page. And so then I started getting flooded with messages. And so that, just led to more doors opening, which ultimately led me personally to working for a certification company in the past, NCI. Cameron and I actually started on the same day in November of 2018. I flew out to Vegas in person. He was there virtually on Zoom. And over the course of the next couple of years, that was also added to the fire of my side hustle. And eventually, with all the things I had working on the side, I had eclipsed my primary revenue stream. Now, I didn't go all in and quit my job because I had a family to support, and that's silly. But I did it the way that you should, where I polish the skills. I learned the additional skills, sales, marketing, systems, things like that, that would allow me to keep growing efficiently, right? And ultimately, as I eclipsed the revenue, I left the main thing, which allowed me to pour directly into all the side hustles. And, at that point, we're talking August 2019 now, you and I collaborated on an offer that became a hallmark of that company. And we went from 30K months, and I assumed operational control in December. In December, we did our first 6-figure month, and we never turned back. And so within 2 years, from 30K to $750,000 months, right? And it's all because of the primary skill. And I'll Cam, do you want to interject how you came in there?
No, that's all right.
Or for another time. Okay.
Yeah. You're on a good roll here. I don't want to interrupt the story.
So, all of these amazing opportunities opened up. I mean, no one from nowhere. I've been blessed enough to go to watch Conor McGregor fight live with the Hormozis, right? And again, no one from nowhere, and it's all because the thing that I was passionate about, I would not be denied. I worked obsessively to build that thing. And it's a skill. Once you can do something, you can do it again and again. It's like having a recipe to bake a cake, right? Like you do it over and over and over. And so that led us into, the biggest part of the expansion at that time was the advent of business coaching, right? Created multi-tiers. We created $3,000 coaching programs, $30,000 coaching programs, and everything in between. And we helped hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. When by the time we left in fall of 21, we had over 1,000 people in Coaching Mastery. There were over 100 people in the boardroom, and things were going really well. But all of that acumen led to a new door opening and a new skill set and new purpose, like a renewed passion. And so it led down the road of obsessing about business and being able to, specifically service-based businesses, but being able to help people grow their thing, just like I did. The thing that was able to get me out of the factory life, the thing that I never had to go back to restaurants or anything like that because I had a new skill set. And so we've been down this path, but we've seen the dark side. And the dark side looks like this: being told this is your only hope, and you better open a new line of credit. And I can't tell you how many people we saw go 5 figures in debt to pay for something that they weren't ready for something that they couldn't afford. And the knowledge that was on the other side of the paywall is not that complex. It's just plays like out of a playbook and certain systems that people they weren't aware of, right? And a lot of that brought me back to my past and who I was, and the struggle, just the struggle, the sleepless nights and never having anything. And I hate it. But if I didn't go through that, I wouldn't be who I am today, whether we're talking skill-wise, whether we're talking compassion, any of those things. If you don't ever walk through hell, you don't know what the fire feels like. Which kind of leads us a little bit to today. We love to see people win. We love putting the ladder down so other people can come up. And I'm sorry, but you shouldn't have to put yourself thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in debt to get group Zoom calls. And, here's a couple things that you weren't aware of that you can actually do. Which led us to creating a couple of cohorts and other communities that we've been involved in, and working with other larger scale gyms and companies to implement the same systems there. And so we've seen the repeatable success of what we do. And we've also, and this isn't shade, I'm not going to name anyone, but we've had multiple others who are in multiple other business groups, whatever you want to call it, programs. And every single one who went through the cohorts, like, this is the winner. What you have is the winner. And so we knew that we were onto something. But Live Rich isn't about, wealth creation per se, and in the traditional lane of just building money. That's a skill. Creating money is a skill, but building wealth is also a skill, and it's a lot more complex. And so these are things that we want to share with the world, because you are most uniquely qualified to help the person that you used to be. We say the same thing every single time. Your mess is your message. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there, because when you put out the real, raw, unfiltered truth about you and what you've been through, you don't know who in the audience is going to connect to it. They may not like the post. They may not comment. They may not interact, but you keep talking and you're going to get the DM. You're going to get, hey, thank you so much for sharing this. I needed this. Hey, I wasn't aware of this. This is great. But it's all about putting out who you are and what you've been through, because that's actually the rationale for why you're doing what you're doing, right? And that's why we also encourage people to put out that content about your mission, your vision, your values, and where you've been, because at the end of the day, people connect to people. And we have to put that story out there, because we don't love and celebrate the person who's been sober forever. We love and celebrate the person who battled addiction and overcame it, because it's all of us. We all come from a broken spot in life. We've all gone through hell. And when you see someone else who's gone through hell and they're talking about it, what do you say? Yeah, amen, brother. I've been there. And this is how we can begin to build a community of people who are understanding, because they've been through the same thing. And that's what galvanizes people, right? Like, we can think about the bond between people who serve in the military. It's incredibly tight, because it's easy to, you think you know who your people are when things are going really well, but you find out who they are when bullets are flying across your head. And that's why that bond is so tight. And that's also why, like, something, in the real world for all of us, if you ever gone to a CrossFit class, it's a lot of suffering. And there's a reason why that particular brand of fitness builds community like literally no other one does, right? Because it's group suffering. Doing 100 burpees for time in a gym that's 97 degrees is suffering. When you go through that with other people, it galvanizes us together, right? And so it's a little bit about why we're here, but the other reason, and if you listen to the podcast, if you've watched us and seen the things that we cover, and yes, we talk about Twitter a lot, that's also where we get a lot of the things, because it's actually the best source of unfiltered news, right? Like, you have to put on your own filter to figure out what's real and what's for sale. But if you really want to know the data on the financial crisis, on how bad things are actually getting, that's where you have to go. And that's why we call back to that a lot, because this is where we bring a lot of the data from. And so when we bring to everyone out there the soaring cost of rent, when we bring to everyone out there, we have record highs for people who've picked up a second job just to make ends meet, on defaulting credit card bills, mortgage payments, auto loans, into serious default, which is over 90 days. And these numbers are soaring and soaring and soaring and soaring. And now we're starting to see the people. And I posted one. I posted one earlier today, because I saw it and I felt it. It's a guy just breaking down. And he's so frustrated because he's powerless to do anything. And he owns his own company. That's the thing, right? He's like, I own my own painting company and I'm still not making. And that's a scary thought, because for all those people out there getting that second job, at the end of the day, if you want to create wealth, you have to own. You have to have ownership. And when you get a second job, you're just still taking a small piece of the pie from a second entity, instead of creating your own thing out of what you love to do, where you actually take everything in. Because that should be the goal. The goal shouldn't be, I work this 40, 50, 60 hours a week, and in my spare time, I go work for someone else over here. It should be, this is the thing that I have to do to make ends meet. This is the thing that I have to do to keep the lights on. But in my spare time, I got to figure out a way out of this. And so the knowledge is not complex, and that's why we share it so freely. Like, the skills that you need to develop beyond that first thing, I don't care if you're an electrician, I don't care if you're a mechanic, if you're a baker, whatever you are, you need to learn how to market yourself. You need to learn how to sell. You need to learn how to create your own business, because then all those hours, those extra hours, you're getting 100% of that for yourself. And that is a lot of why we're here, because it doesn't matter. Left, right, Bloods, Crips, same. Two different wings of the same monster. And it's coming for all of us. It's not something that any of us can escape unless you're in that top tier. And by the way, everything that we work for is steadily being transferred. And enough is enough. We can't do anything as individuals. We cannot. Like, you can go on TikTok and you can complain and you can go into the road and hoist your sign up and protest. Those are all distractions. Those are all external things that are pulling you away from your calling. And your calling is to build the life that you want. The calling is to be able to step into your passion and your purpose every day, because when you find that thing and you can let everything else go in solid pursuit of this love, the best version of you comes out, because you are willing to go through things for something that you love that you wouldn't bear for anything else. I'll go through hell for my kids that I wouldn't go through for a stranger down the street. When you find the thing that you love, you're willing to go to extraordinary lengths to make it work. And at the end of the day, that's what we all have to do. We have to figure out a way to make this thing work. Because the only way, truly, down the road, and I'm not going to go deep on this right now, the only way that we can overcome the situation that we've been placed in collectively is to decentralize the power. We're at a time where the stock market is being propped up by 5 to 7 companies. That's the least amount of diversification ever. That actually violates the first principle of investing, right? Diversification. Put too many eggs in one basket. When it crashes, what happens? That's our entire economy is tied to these things, by the way. And so the only way to do that is to stop feeding into it, to stop joining them and working and slaving for them, because you're still only getting a small cut and they're still taking the most. And when we all offer up the most from our efforts to people up top, they only grow stronger while we just get stepped on. That's the reality. Again, I don't care. Left, right, none of those things matter. Your race, none of that stuff matters. Your pronouns don't matter. It's coming for us all. And so for that reason, we know now more than ever, in order to make headway, in order to begin to get people to drop their silly flags and banners that they walk and kneel under, we have to give people hope. We have to give people the ability to do for themselves. And by the way, that just comes from knowledge. It comes from sharing knowledge and resources and the skills that we all develop. How much better do you think your life would be if you found the thing that you loved and you started to build it and you had a bunch of friends who were putting you out there, who were promoting you, people who are trying to help you instead of people who are crickets when you're like, hey, I'm starting a thing. That's not going to work. Oh, good luck with that. No, I got you, man. How can I support you? How can I put you on my platform? How can my business work with your business? Oh, you're a personal trainer? Amazing. I'm a chiropractor. We're in adjacent fields. How can we work together? How can you talk about my chiropractic business to your people who come in with low back pain? How can I get you to come in here and talk to people about movement? How can we expose each other? How can we start to build these small communities in our own backyards? Because the other thing is this: everyone's been pushed too far into the virtual world. This has 2 negative side effects. Number one, it's not real connection. Like, this is virtual. When we're in person, I can feel your energy. I can feel when you're down. I can feel when you're up. And I can try and help balance that out. But virtually, it's not the same. And I'm not there for you. I'm here for you. I can listen, but you can't put your head on my shoulder, right? Like, I can't console you. And so we have to find those communities in our own backyard. And if we can't find them, we got to build them. But it's got to be done no matter what, right? Whether it's discovered or whether you create it, it's got to happen. Because this has always been the way. right? Like before the Boy Scouts got all weird, that was the way. Before churches got all weird, that was the way. Communities. And that's what we need to get back to. Because when we get back to people who are just like us, we get to lift each other up. We get to give each other shine. We get to decentralize things by owning a piece of something and having other people help us build that. And the other thing is this, and this is from the dim-witted business coaches out there. More than once, more than twice, more than 3 times now. Doesn't mean 4, it means it's happened a lot. We've had people who've come to us who have bought into the thing, and the person on the other end, because of their limited understanding or whatever, they can't give all the context or they don't know all the context. They're like, oh no, shut down your in-person business. You got to go online. No, you just only know online tactics. You don't know how to talk to real people because you're not real people. You're telling people you're authentic. That's not real. And so because of that, we've had people come to us and we're like, no, what do you want to do? Do you want to go online? No. Well, then don't. Well, that's what they said. It's not about what they say. It's about what you want to do and what you want to build. Because at the end of the day, if you're taking your cues from someone on stage and it's not the thing you want, now you have another job. Now you work for someone else. You're going to lose your passion. You're going to get burnt out easy. You're going to hate it. You're going to burn it to the ground. And so for that reason, there's so much more that you can do. And it is easier to build a business in your own backyard because people are readily available and you already know someone. You have a network within you. And that's why the 7th foundational training that we teach is called Run the Block, which is where the podcast gets its name from, because it's about running your own backyard, right? Because it's so easy to connect in person if you're willing to. And for that reason, everything else that we've gone through here, that I've gone through in this point, that's why we're here, guys. It's why Live Rich exists. It's why we're bringing this thing to the world. And it doesn't matter who you are or where you come from. You just have to be ready to live by a set of principles. And you have to be ready to share what you know and pour into a community because it's a community. That's what this is. The podcast is just a mouthpiece. This is just how we can start the movement. But it's only going to grow with each and every one of you. And that's why we're building this. We're not going to go into the price point because it's tacky, but it ain't what you're used to. I'll tell you that. And everything you find on the inside is better than what you've seen. I can tell you that. So that's why we're here. That's why Live Rich exists. Rant over.
Seems like a perfect time to just get into the screen share then and break down the Parthenon, as we're calling it at the moment.
The Parthenon. Here we go. Okay, so Live Rich. You see rich in all caps whenever we publicize it. And the reason why is because each of those letters stand for something, just like we do and just like you need to. You need to stand for something. And so we're going to hop into each one and we're going to break down the core tenets of what they mean to us and what you can expect on the other side of the community wall, but also the things that we love to talk about, the things that we're passionate about, because they go beyond like, hey, can you help me make 10K in a month? Yep, that's a skill. That's not the passion project. That's what we want to do for everyone. We want to make that the standard. We want to make that the rule, not the exception. And so when you think about a rich life, it's wealth, it's abundance, and it goes beyond money because there's been a lot of people out there, and unless you've ever actually made real money, you can't really dismiss this. There's been a lot of people who've made a lot of money only to find out like, oh no, this doesn't fix it. Don't get me wrong, you need money, and the more money you have, the more good you can do, for sure. No question. But that's not it, because I've had a lot and I've gone through a season of loss and nothing mattered. 0 things on earth. When you lose the things and the people that you love, dollars don't make sense. And so you start to see that there's more to it. And I'm going to brush by this, but part of the origin story is loss, is a season of loss of my stepson, which caused me to take a big pause in who I was and what I was doing and make a really, really big pivot because I didn't want to do that anymore. And so I'm going to tell you right now, it's about more than money. It's about freedom. All right, let's get into it. Live rich. R. And they're going to be abbreviated because it's too many letters, but it's your reputation. And this is the thing that precedes you. This is what people know of you. This is what people say about you. Now, to an extent, part of this is not within your control because there are haters. There are envious people. There are people who just don't like you because of the way you talk, the tone of your voice, the pitch, any of those things, right? They may not like the way you look. Some people are just haters. But for the most part, we can control what is within our reputation by the way that we live. And so under reputation, we have three very clear-cut things. And the top one is probably the most paramount, and it's the most obvious. And I erased it. Integrity. You have to live a life of integrity. Integrity is being the person that you know you should be at all times. It's always doing the right thing, even when it's the hard thing, even when it's the thing that you don't want to. This country is going to hell in a handbag quickly because a lot of people are I'm just following orders, just doing my duty. Saw a video earlier, 5, 6 officers armed to the teeth, SWAT, kicked in a door on a wellness check, and the person on the inside opened fire immediately, hit one of them. And the reason why is they're just following orders. They didn't door knock, they didn't check, they kicked in the door. They're just following orders. That's not integrity. Not doing the right thing, even when it's part of your job. That's not a life of integrity. And if you're at a place where you're being asked to do things that you know are not morally right, why are you there? Ultimately, it's going to poison your soul. You're going to hate being there. You're going to build resentment. It's going to cause you to run to things that you don't want to run to. Because when there's nowhere to run from things, we run to medication. We run to the bottle. We run to whatever. And it's because you are at turmoil with your very soul and you're doing things that you know you shouldn't be doing in the first place. So part of your reputation, a big part, is integrity. Second part's leadership. This is a skill that you can develop. When I was 17, I picked up my first book on leadership. I was in Walden Books, John C. Maxwell, 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. I read that and I was hooked. I never turned back. Being a leader is not being a boss. Everyone hates their boss. No one likes their boss. That's just someone giving you orders. Everyone loves a leader because they show you how to do it, and they're there for you. They support you along the way. Sometimes they lead from the front, sometimes it's from the back where they need to be. They're always there to make sure the best side of you comes out. And that's leadership. And we don't measure leadership by how many followers we have. We measure leadership by how many other leaders we create. And so that is paramount in our mission, is creating leaders all across the globe. It doesn't matter your age. You can always be a leader of your peer group. Got a teenager that I'm raising to be a leader. And I'm on him all the time whenever I see him doing things that does not align with who he wants to be at the end of the day, which is a leader. So your age doesn't matter. You're always qualified to lead if you act like a leader. From here, it's values. What do you stand for? We talked about that. Rich stands for something and you got to stand for something. What are your values? What are your core tenets? What is your North Star? When it's time to make a decision, what word can you point to on the board and say, that's it? We have 7 values in my family. One of them is contribution. You'll see it later. And when my son doesn't take out the garbage, I don't have to be on him. I can point to the value. And he sees contribution. He knows, oh shit, what did I not do? And so you have to have values because they become your North Star for decision making of who you are in life. And we encourage every single person to develop your own values. And if you're listening to this and you have a family, sit down and come up with a list of family values. They can be the one word things. They can be fancy sayings. We do the work. We have someone close to us that we help in their business who is overseas. And one of their values is we shovel the snow because he's in one of the frozen countries in Europe, right? And so that's simply a value that means we do the grass level work. We're in the trenches, right? Like we clear the path for everyone. And that's the value of his company. So it can be the one word thing. It can be whatever you want it to be. And when you come in here, we're going to help you develop this because we know that everyone needs that North Star that you can fall back on. And you have tough decisions. Nah, these are my values. This is the decision that I have to go with based on. So reputation. These are the 3 core tenets of the Live Rich Project of your reputation. Anything you want to add or go on about?
No, man. I think you're crushing it.
I'm gonna keep rolling.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's go. All right, into the I. Innovation. Innovation. We have seen and come from places where people try to apply the same solutions to multiple problems, like a template. That's not how it works. Innovation. You constantly have to be innovating. And it's not just whatever the new thing is, right? And when we start with the very first core tenet of that, I want you to see this. It's self-development. You're going to go through a lot of evolutions, and it's what you should do, right? If we, I'll always lean back to Ray Dalio's Principles, which is top 5 book for me. Everyone should read it. And one of them is that evolution is our most difficult task and our greatest achievement. I know that some of you out there, much like myself, have found yourself in the same precarious situations over and over, much like you're going through the same level of a video game and you just can't quite beat that boss to get to the next level. It's because you haven't developed yourself to be the person who's capable of going to the next level. Typically, this comes in the form of addition by subtraction. There are going to be things in your life that you have to let go of. There are going to be addictions. There are going to be sources of comfort. And sometimes there are going to be people. And I'm not telling you, don't go see your family on Christmas because they don't understand what you're doing. That's nonsense. That is nonsense. But sometimes we have to leave people behind, or we have to create boundaries around them because they are toxic to us, and we need to have that conversation. I love you, but I got to love you from an arm's length because you're detrimental to me at times. And that's fair because we all go through those seasons of life. And if you're listening to this and if that resonated with you, I hope that relationship changes. And I want you to know that if you develop your leadership skills, you can change that relationship. You can take accountability for the direction it's going, and you can do everything you can to change it. At the end of the day, some people can't change, and I get it. I grew up with that. They're not ready to change until they're ready to change. And so you may have to change the state of the relationship for the time being. But it is the development of self that will always lead us to what the next level in life is. So if you don't have what you want, it's because you haven't become who you are supposed to be. And this is where your ego comes into play in a beneficial way. People poo-poo ego all the time because of pride and what it does to us. But if you don't have an ego, if you don't have that sense of self, then you won't believe that you're destined for greatness, and you won't believe that you're capable of it. And so you have to have an ego enough to know that you're not enough yet, but you damn sure can be. And you have to have the ego and the wherewithal to know that you have to sacrifice on the altar who you are today. And that sacrifice is to yourself for who you're going to be tomorrow, which, by the way, is the definition of hope. It is having a positive outlook that today will be better than tomorrow. And so we know that self-development is the key to all development. And so that's why you need to innovate who you are. A lot of people talk about monk mode. Not everyone's got 6 months to go silent, right? Sometimes it's just small changes. It's changing your daily waking systems, your nighttime systems, the people you surround yourself with. All of that is part of self-development. And so that is the reason why it's the most paramount core tenet of innovation for us. Beyond that, it's business development. You're a business. You can be a business. You can monetize a skill. You can monetize a passion. You can do it. You are capable of doing that. And so the things that we have been blessed to learn through trial by fire a lot of times are the things that a lot of people come to us for. It's not our purpose. It's not our passion. This is just part of what we do. And it's a necessary part of what we do because I didn't know how to build a business. I didn't know I could. I didn't know I was capable. I didn't know it was simple. It's not easy. It's simple. There are foundational skills you have to develop, which are the things that we teach. Because this is the knowledge that you need to turn your passion into a skill, into a sharp axe that will cut down anything that's in your way. So business development, core tenet number 2. But we are talking about innovation here. So let's talk about the bane of my existence, but also how we get to do this. Tech, emerging tech. My nightmare. It's not where I want to live, but it is the thing that allows me to do what I do. It's the thing that allows me to come to you right now if you're listening. It's the thing that has allowed me to help so many other people. And it's the thing that's allowed me to help my family. And so because of that, we bring to emerging technology and new softwares and things that you need to be aware of so you can leverage these things, so you can grow more efficiently on your own on whatever that side hustle, that side project is. It's something that most of us, if not all of us, we have to leverage at some point. And so as much as we hate it, it's a part of what we do because it's a necessary part of growth. From here, let's go into the sea.
Let me, can I just touch on that real quick? I just think when people hear innovation, I know from when we've talked about this before, that they start thinking like, well, I'm not going to have any new ideas. And it's not necessarily that you always have to have a new idea or you have to come think of something that's never been thought of before. Very few people in the world have ever done that. Maybe a Musk, a Steve Jobs, like, you know, those types of people are the people that maybe have invented new tech or, you know, something maybe that's disclosed by the government that we don't even know, right? Maybe
that's right.
That's the real innovation there. Because we think, and even when you say the word tech and innovation, probably a lot of people think of phones and computers, even with the word tech, but it's like, that is just a type of technology. That's hardware and software, like you said. That's not necessarily a new technology or anything else. That's just a type of new technology. That's not the only type, though, of new technology. So when we're talking about innovation, it's not just what's that new idea. It's also reinventing yourself, possibly through self-development, starting through simply what are the problems that you're facing and what is the solution. Self-development, reverse engineer. I feel like crap today. Cool. Why do you feel like crap? Look at your day. Well, it appears when I get 5 hours less of sleep, I feel like crap. Okay, let's start there. Let's solve that problem. Cool. Is there things that you need to do, or is it just you need to go to bed earlier, right? And then as you grow and learn along the way, you start to see like, okay, when I was searching to solve this problem, I really couldn't find anything. Okay, so maybe I could talk about this and help other people because I couldn't really find it. So I'm sure other people may have this problem too. That's similar to your story and my story when it came to nutrition and fitness, right? We both younger were overweight. We didn't have anyone to solve our problem. So we started trying to solve it for ourselves. We in turn wanted to be like, we didn't want other people to have to go through the same pain that we did and not have someone there for them to actually be able to change. So innovation, guys, isn't just something that's like, man, I know one day just in the shower, it's going to hit me and I'm going to have this brilliant idea. That's not necessarily what we're talking about here. We're just talking about the small, repeatable steps to improving yourself, to learning sharpening the axe, to actually developing these skills to ultimately then create the change that you wish to be.
Yeah, man. Big part of innovation is iteration. It's doing the same
Absolutely.
thing over and over in a different way. And that's what we all tend to do, is we're iterative versions of ourselves, where we're just making those gradual improvements. And those are the things that add up to be the better version of you. 100%. Man. On to the sea we go. It's not Contra. That would be cool.
Contraband?
Less cool, but sometimes cool.
All right, fine.
Contribution, right? Like I referred to this earlier as a family value. Contribution. You got to put in. If we don't all put in, we don't all rise. The goal is to be the rising tide by pouring the water into the central location, and then all of the ships come up. And that's the goal. You have a gift, you have a talent, you have something about you, whether it's a product, whether it's interpersonal communication skills, whether you're linguistically gifted and you're a great author, whether you're an artist, whatever the case may be, you have something to give to this world. You may not understand what that is yet. You may not have unlocked that yet, but you have something to give, and we want to help bring that out of you. Contribution is so big. So how can we do that? Well, we just talked about something that you have inside of you. And this is something that is very near and dear to me. Purpose. What's your purpose? Purpose is fluid, right? There are times where we go through seasons of life where I got a little bigger than I should have been, and I got a wedding coming up, or I got a photo shoot, or I saw a photo and my belly was hanging down, and I don't ever want to look like that again. And so my purpose right now is getting up and going to the gym in the morning, or getting the 10,000 steps, or getting up and knowing that I have to hit these macros, and it gives us something to do every day, something to lean in on. And it's so very important, because if you're not leaning into purpose, whatever that may be for the time being, you're not being productive. And we're all called to build. We're all called to be producers. And when we don't do that, when we're not stepping into our purpose, we become consumers. I have certainly fallen into this trap before. And consumption looks different. For some people, it's the bottomless bag of Doritos. For some people, it's the, hey, are you still watching Netflix binge? For some people, it's alcohol, bottle of pills, whatever your thing is, right? But when we're not stepping into our purpose, when we're not out there doing the thing, we look for a way to fill the void. And it's through consumption every single time. And that only leads to bad things. And so your purpose is a big part of why we're here, because for us, this is walking in our purpose and in our call. From there, philanthropy. What can you give? Not what can you sell? What can you give? Can you give more? Is it money? Is it time? Is it mentorship? Is it a skill? I train youth athletes, not for dollars, but because I want to see them win. And I know the benefit of a health and fitness-based lifestyle, and I want to ingrain it on these kids because it's been a cornerstone of my life. And I want to help pass that on because I know what it's done for me. And so your giving isn't always about your money, because you don't always have money to give. Now, if we're going to go biblical, when you can give when you're not in a position to, you're going to receive more than you ever thought you could. I'm going to tell you that's also true for the most part. Give when you can't, because it'll come back to you. And so for us, that's big. I already referred to the third one, so let's dive in. Mentorship. You need a Sherpa. You need a shepherd. The shepherd is the one who watches the flock and gets them safely through the darkness into the light. Safe passage for all. You need Sherpas in your life. Sherpas are the people who are going to get you up and down the mountain, because they've been up and down the mountain a lot. They're going to help carry the burden. They know where to step and where not to step. They know where the strong footholds are, and they know where, like, hey, you see where that snow is? There's nothing underneath it. If you step, you fall to your death. And we all need that because we aren't equipped with knowledge from the beginning. Knowledge is something that is given to us. And as a matter of fact, it's the only thing I can give you forever. I can give you the money in my wallet. I can give you the hat off my head and the shirt off my back. At some point, you're going to take them off. At some point, you're going to get into a place where they get lost or you can't bring them in or whatever the case may be. We empower each other with knowledge. It is a power that you're bestowing upon someone where they can live a better life because of the impact that you've made. Your sharing of knowledge, resources, direction, skills, right? And so mentorship. And we need different mentors at different points in life. Yeah, do you need a business mentor? Until you don't. And guess what? Then you need a bigger business mentor, right? Like if you go into any business coaching program, they will say those things, and I'm going to tell you they're true because at the end of the day, it's a shortcut to where you want to go. But it's beyond that. There are young men who need mentorship. I just did a video yesterday on fatherless, the epidemic of fatherlessness in America, and I just dumped a bunch of data on there. And one of the things that I didn't say is that children who have a mentor, doesn't have to be a man in the home, boys who have a mentor are 55% more likely to go to college. And so if you're in a single parent home, a single mother home, and you have a mentor, those kids are going to college more often than not. And the kids who don't, they're dropping out at a higher rate. And so that's the importance of mentorship. You don't have to be in someone's house to make a difference. That's why it's a core tenet. Anything on contribution?
I think you summed it up pretty well. Nothing to add at this time, Your Honor.
Grazie. All right, that's going to bring us to the last one. Harmony.
Bunch of hippies.
Harmony. Bunch of hippies. Get a haircut, get a job. Life is full of turmoil and strife. And a lot of it is because tribes and sides are warring with each other unnecessarily, being distracted from reality. This needs to stop. We need to stop with the race. We need to stop with the gender, sexuality, like all of those things. Go away. Go away. Distractions from what you're really here to build. And so there are certain aspects that we believe are extremely important into undoing the current situation that we're in. And the first thing that we have to think of within harmony is something we've referred to a lot here. Community. A place where you can go find people just like you, who understand what it's like to be in your shoes, who can relate to you, because at that point, you feel like you're a part of something bigger. And that is something that is so hardwired into our DNA. Being in a community is the way that we survive. Humans are always very communal, to the point where if you go back tens of thousands of years, if humans weren't communal, we wouldn't survive. We wouldn't have been able to create agriculture. We wouldn't have been able to farm. No single caveman can take down the woolly mammoth, but when 60 of us come together for the hunt, the entire tribe eats from us. And it's because the community comes together. The community watches over each other. We need to have that friend that we can call at 2:00 in the morning when we're on the road, when we're out of town, and you get a call and something's gone wrong at home. Hey man, look, I got some shit happening at my house. Can you go over there and make sure everyone's okay? We need that. And if you don't have that, you need to create that. So community is so very important and central to everything that we're building here. Another aspect, umbrella term, social awareness. What's going on out there? Like, what's really going on? Not what are we being told, not what is this side whispering into your ear and that side, but like when we sift through everything, what's really happening out there? And how can we positively affect it? And so this is an umbrella term, but this is something that's so important to us. Because if you look at the damaged state of the world, it's only getting worse. It's only getting worse in this country by the minute. And it's something that I don't think people understand how to actually solve this because they're trying to solve it with protests. That's never worked. All you're doing is annoying people when you're in the middle of the road, and it's only a matter of time until someone says no more. And we've actually seen that. I'm not going to go into details on it, but it ain't pretty. And it's because we're now fighting each other instead of the people who have the power. Chuck D told you guys a long time ago, fight the power. We're fighting each other. This is nonsense. It's time to unify. It's time to come together. It's time to drop the banners, drop the flags, drop the preconceived notions. Go meet your neighbor. Go have a conversation. Hey, how can we get through this together? How can I lift you up? How can I support you? And it all comes from social awareness. And so these are important things. Social issues are important. And one of the biggest travesties that's ever happened is that we told our children, and our parents told us, you don't talk about religion. You don't talk about politics. You don't talk about money. Why? Look at where it's gotten us. We can't even have a conversation with each other. Oh, you're on this side? I can't talk to you. Why? Why not? Why can't we talk about it? Why can't we try to figure this out? Why can't I try to understand you better? Why can't you try to see where I'm coming from? We have different backgrounds. We have different experiences, rural communities, suburban communities. Within the city, uptown, downtown, the hood, it's all different. We come from different backgrounds. We have different belief systems. Doesn't mean it's the right one. It just means it's the one that was handed to us. And the only way that we can undo some of the silliness that's occurring is just through conversation. Social awareness, guys. It's big. It's going to bring us to the last thing, and it's kind of the cornerstone. It's where we started. Health and wellness, fitness. You should do it. You should lift weights. You don't have to go to the gym 7 days a week. You should go for a walk. You should go for a jog. You should get on the bike. You should do those things. It's not because you're looking to be jacked and tan, although that's a great benefit. It's a great byproduct of living a fit lifestyle. But because it's good for your health, especially your mental health. I'm going to tell you right now, there were years where I obsessed over building business, and I let go of my fitness. And my mental health suffered so much because of it. I didn't have that out anymore. But beyond that, I didn't have the positive effect of all the neurotransmitters that are going through your brain, all the endorphins, all the dopamine hits, the elevated serotonin, all those things. I didn't have those. So I was chemically imbalanced. It didn't lead to good things. It doesn't lead to good things for any of us. Look at the person who's morbidly obese on the couch. Are they happy? More often than not, no. And there's a reason why they're drowning their sorrows in the endless bag of Doritos and whatever the thing is. It's because they're not happy in the first place. Compounding interest works both ways. And I know inertia, still movement, is hard to overcome. But once you get the ball in motion, that's how you build the momentum. And it can start with a 5-minute walk a day. You don't have to jump into the cold plunge right away like Huberman wants you to, although it's a great thing. It starts with small things. Get up and take the walk. After every meal, go for a 10-minute walk. See how you feel. See if your knees don't hurt less. See if the inflammation doesn't come down. It will. You'll feel better. You'll be able to move more. You'll be able to move further. You'll be able to lose more weight. You'll be able to feel better about yourself. And it's cyclical in nature. You become the better version of yourself. Self-development. Primary core tenet of innovation. The iteration of who you are. We love a good before and after. I love the 400-pound person who's now 180 pounds. I love that story. It's so inspiring. Imagine how it feels to live that story. Anyone can do it. It's just not everyone's going to. But it is the core tenet, probably above everything else. Because, and this is a Naval thing, so I'm going to go ahead and credit him right away because he talks about it. What's the first thing he does? He guards his health. Why? Without that, he can't do anything. So even his family comes second to his health because without his health, he can't provide for his family. I'm not telling you like, oh, the king eats first. That's not how it is. A leader puts the best interest of others in front of them. And so how do we do that? By being the best version of ourselves. And I promise you, the fitter version of yourself, the stronger version of yourself, the more aesthetically pleasing and therefore more confident version of yourself is a better version of yourself. So yeah, health and fitness, it's big here. It's not something that we're going to talk about a ton about on the podcast, but inside the community, it's different. And we happen to have a whole network of experts who come in and do trainings because that's still their passion and that's where they live and that's what they love to do. And we're happy to put any of you in front of them. If that's not your thing, we just connect people. We're a community. That's the goal, right? Is to bring who you are in here, to bring your skills, your talents, your passion, your purpose, your reason for being, and share that with others. Because there are going to be people who have business acumen that you would never be able to get in your life without a conversation with them, who maybe need someone to help them lose 20 pounds. What a great way to form a relationship. What a great way to get introduced into their clients. Man, you got to meet my personal trainer. Man, you got to meet my coach. Man, you got to meet my business coach. I went from $7,000 a month to $22,000 a month, and that's how we grow each other. And it's through all of these things that we find this.
He's drawing just so everyone that's listening to audio knows.
Leads to your higher calling. It's the reason why you're here in the first place. You find out who you are. You find out why you were put here, and then you understand it. With the confidence of every athlete who's been interviewed after the Super Bowl, and they talk about it, and on the path, this is why God put me here. I was put on this planet to do this thing, and you can find that. And when you find that, you're going to step into it, and you're going to get reaffirmed over and over. The universe and God, whatever you believe in, will guide you by giving you signs, and they are all around you when you're doing the right thing. You just got to read the writing on the wall. You'll find your higher calling through these values, through these core tenets, because that's how I found mine. You fix who you are, and then you can heal others. When you find all of these things, it changes. It changes you. The person that you used to be and the way that you did things. Nah, no longer. Becomes foundational for your way of life. What's your reputation? Are you a person of integrity? Are you the perpetual leader? Do you have core tenets and values that you can point to? Are you mentoring others? Are you giving to others? It changes your way of life. It changes your daily schedule. It changes the way you think when you wake up. I'm getting up. I'm going for my walk. I'm listening to a power song. I'm writing a letter of gratitude. I'm sending 3 texts of gratitude. Whatever the thing is. The way that you live becomes totally different. You don't recognize yourself in the best possible way. And all of this, it adds up to something. And whether you consciously are doing this or not, you're doing it. You're doing it every day, 365, no days off. You're doing it every minute of your existence. And it all works to this one thing. What's your life's work? There's going to come a time where it's going to be close to the end, and you're going to know it. For most of us. Some of us, it'll be a surprise, unfortunately. But you're going to know it. And if you go watch any of the interviews that people do inside of nursing homes, inside of senior communities, or even older billionaires, right? I saw a great one with, I interviewed 19 billionaires. Here's the 8 lessons that I learned. 0 things had to do with money. It's more time with family. It's giving more freely. Because they attain the thing that we think that we want. We don't want that. We want the experiences that come with it. Do you really want a Bugatti? You can just rent one. I mean, if you make enough, you can buy one, but you can rent that experience. You can experience 200 miles an hour with the wind blowing in your hair if you want to. At the end of it, you're not going to care about that. You're going to go somewhere and you're going to have a conversation with who you could have been. And I think that's probably the biggest regret a lot of people have is they didn't live up to who they could have been. Had they done the thing, had they tried to fight for themselves, had they believed more in themselves and built something more and built deeper relationships, because those are the things that matter. Those are the things that determine your happiness. It's that social connection to others and the bedrock of connection that we have in the truth that we share with each other. And you are working on your life's work every day, every minute, with every decision that you make. And eventually you're going to have to take a good long look in the mirror when we're getting towards the end of the ride, and you're going to be faced with what you did and what you built and what you're leaving behind. And I refuse to be the black pill person who will tell you, like, no one's going to remember you when you're dead and it's, it's all for naught, so you might as well just do the thing anyways. No, I choose not to believe that insidious lie. I choose to believe the truth of, I can change my family's stars. I can build something so big that it's going to echo in the halls of history forever. And so all of these things will lead to your life's work, and that is going to be a long and twisting path. I know mine has been. I thought I was going to be a restaurant guy growing up because that's what my parents were, and then I thought I was going to be blue collar because that's what my dad did. I thought I was going to live that life. And my life has turned upside down, left, right, in so many different ways over the last decade, and my eyes have been open to what is truly possible. And we're just trying to help you guys discover the same thing, because we want to help you build your life's work. So when it's all said and done, when the smoke clears and you're looking in the mirror at the end of the day, you know you did everything you could, and you know you lived up to your capacity, your capability, and your truth. The thing that's ingrained deep within inside of you. We're just trying to help you find that thing, because that's how you're going to live your best life, and you're going to create a masterpiece every day of your year. Live rich.
Amen. If you guys have been listening to audio, definitely recommend this one to go to video, go to YouTube, go to Twitter. Make sure excuse me, Elon, Twitter gods. It's X now. Go there and do watch this breakdown. It starts at about minute 35-ish. Just, skip back through and then go watch that as Michael's building this out, so you have a visual with the audio that we just walked through. If you guys take away nothing else from this, figure out your own core values. We went through core values of live rich. We went into the core tenets then, and sometimes people get a lot of that confused. And so I don't think you should go and try to build your own Parthenon tonight, but I would highly suggest that you actually go through and do try to figure out some of your values. And a lot of people end up just adopting, which is, something we talk about all the time, adopt and adapt, adopting other values, right? Especially if you get into Stoicism, philosophy, a lot of people adopt the 4 core values of Stoicism, which is totally fine. Adopt those to see if they fit, see if they don't fit. I know you mentioned your family's 7. I have my own that I go by. And it's just sometimes over time they change as well, right? Like you change as a person, which is self-development, going back to what Rich stands for. I know about probably 18 months ago, I did a self-audit and I was like, a couple of these core values, definitely, I think that they're good and definitely should do them, but they're not like the core value that I hold true, that I live by each and every single day. So just like anything else, they will change probably over time, or at least maybe be tweaked over time. But I would highly recommend figuring out what are those things, what are the foundational principles that you want to build a life of. If you're struggling, if you already have them, great, you're far ahead of the curve. I know just from our own experience in working with coaches, maybe 1 or 2 have ever had them done before they've actually worked with us. And maybe they've had a couple of their own, but then like you ask them about their business and, hey, let's make core values for this business. And it's just like, can't even fathom it, right? Like they just struggle to do that. And it is hard. I get it. Because I think we go into that like high school mode where we had to write a mock business plan. Maybe you had to do it in college. I definitely had to do it in both. Like, write a mock business plan, right? What's your company's core values? What's core tenet? What's your mission? What's your vision? And you're like, I just want to help people. I don't know. I want to make money and help people. That's it, right? But I'd highly suggest homework, creating your own values for yourself. If you have a business, highly suggest doing that, because that's what Michael and I will tell you is that some of the easiest stuff besides, top of funnel, problem aware, solution aware content, you can easily talk about your core values, right? But in the lens through telling your client's journey or the product's journey, whatever the thing is that you're selling. So they are actually super important. They're not just something to brush off or to not have, but you should have personal ones and then company ones, because I don't know, dude, maybe it was Bill Ackman. It was somebody I saw a portion of the podcast. You know how like you just sometimes leave your TV on and it just comes on. And I want to say it was Lex interviewing Bill Ackman, I think. And he was even talking about like after his divorce, he's like, I was unsure about a couple things in business. And he's like, we literally sat down as a company and we wrote our core values. He's like, because I wanted to make sure the next business decision that we had aligned with that, because some of the things we've been doing previously didn't align with me and they didn't sit right. And so I was like, we're going to do this. So if somebody who's got that type of money says like, hey, even we had to do this. Yeah. Probably a good idea for if you're sub 100K a month to think through and be like, maybe we should do this as well.
Yeah. I think we should just do a training on that, right? Like, it's something that we end up doing with just about every coach who comes through. And I know I've been in events where I've seen people take stage and talk about how they paid someone $50,000 to help them create mission, vision, and values. Why? Why would you do that? Unless it's for a good story, I get it.
Sure.
Yeah, maybe we do a training on that.
Maybe. I think it's tough with clarity, right? When you're in your own head,
right,
and you're trying to do that. Like you and I have spun our wheels several times about probably anything and everything we've definitely covered on this podcast. You just spin in your own head and you're like, I don't know, this kind of sounds, especially mission and vision. People are like, aren't these the same thing? Yeah. It's like, well, no, not really, but they definitely can start to cross over depending on your overall goals. And then you get into goals and objectives and people are like, well, what's that? And then you talk about OKRs and people are like, what do you mean? They're just like, this is dumb. I'm out. Done.
Yeah, they definitely, mission, vision, they cross paths for sure, but easy way to think of it. Your mission is why the thing exists, right? We essentially just went through an hour and 15 minutes of the mission. The vision is what world do you see as the mission is complete? What does the world look like after you've completed the mission through your product, through your service, through whatever the thing is? Mission is why you're here. Vision is what it looks like when you're done doing the thing. That's an easy way to separate those, and you should start to be able to get a little understanding from that.
So if you guys want to see that, let us know. We're definitely happy to maybe break that down if that would be super helpful for you personally and or your business to break some of that down and maybe help gain a little bit of clarity for you. Just hit us in DM. We're eventually definitely going to do polls. I'm going to start putting up polls, not in the next 2 weeks, but as we get this rolling, I'm going to start putting up polls probably on YouTube, and then we'll do it on X too, Michael. We'll just set up some polls. That way we know if people actually want to see this stuff or not, or if they want us to go in a different direction with some of these trainings that we have proposed. Michael and I already have a set list, but if you guys want to see other things, let us know, because we're happy to deter our recurring list of probably, I don't know. I know we have 9 formal trainings, but I would say probably about 15 things, maybe 20-ish. Yeah, 15 to 20 things that we could just like rotate through like in a weekly basis. I'm thinking like 6 months, right? Like what would you rotate through, and then like probably something like that. So if you guys want to see other types of trainings or have other questions, as always, hit us in DM, Michael_connects, Cam.explains on the IG, as well as the X, the Twitter sphere. Any final words of wisdom to wrap us up here, Michael, before we hit the road?
Live rich forever. Get to work.
Link in bio for t-shirt and apparel items. Coming soon, maybe. All right, guys. Have a wonderful rest of your day. We'll talk soon.